I know you've convinced me that having a coach is a good thing to do, and there's a lot of benefits associated with it. What are the ways that somebody would choose a coach? What's the criteria we should look for?
Having the right coach that is right from the perspective of what the individual is looking to achieve and from the perspective of the coach being able to provide that. I'm going to call it chemistry. So an exploratory conversation before the commencement of a coaching program, in my opinion, is a must. So I would urge executives not just to pick the first coach that they've sat down with and established a good rapport with. It's probably worth talking to a few to be sure that this is the one that I can really relate to. If we take that situation that then brings about, I've had executives share things with me that they have never spoken to another human being about, all right? And the ability to do that necessitates a huge amount of trust, a huge amount of rapport, and the ability to very comfortably let one's guard down and be vulnerable in addressing that particular question. Now, if there isn't the right chemistry and the right rapport between the coach and the client, that's not going to be possible. And I think that in itself is one of the most fundamental value questions that presupposes a coaching program and a fit. So the chemistry bit, I think, is massively important. What background does the coach bring to the party might be important, but it's very much secondary. I think having runs on the board in terms of having coached people in similar spaces and to similar outcomes will give confidence that this isn't a talk fest. And I think that's really very important, that there are enough innings and enough runs on the board that the person can with confidence say, yep, this guy knows what he's talking about. He is going to challenge me in ways nobody else can. And this is the I guess, uniqueness of the coaching conversation, because the coach has no other agenda than your agenda and has no other objective than helping you to be the best that you can be. Now, we talked earlier on about obstacles. Some of those obstacles can be pretty deep down and they can be pretty scary for executives to want to deal with, particularly if they are at a personal, unconscious level. I like to use a metaphor of a glider. I once, when I was a student in Germany in the 70s, thought that I would want to become an amateur glider pilot. So I went along and had a few lessons, and I remember sitting in the glider the first time and we were winched towards a truck that had a dirty big winch on it. And so we hurtled towards it, and eventually we went into an arc where we climbed, and at its apex the pilot had to disengage the cable. And if they didn't, then we would complete the arc and we would finish in an unsavoury way at the end of the story, all right?
I assume that didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen because the pilot was clever enough. He had had the runs on the board to know when to. Now, what happened when the cable is disconnected is the glider soars off into the thermals, uninhibited, liberated of the obstacle that, while necessary to get them to that point in their life, could now be let go.
You talk about chemistry, trust, partnering. There's probably a risk if somebody recommends a coach. You should try this coach. I use them and they're fantastic. It may not be fantastic for you, though. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly right. And this is why I believe that exploratory conversation is so important, because that should come out. And if the coach is worth their salt and they recognise, I don't think that I'm the right chemistry to help you achieve what it is that you want, and walk away, then I think that's a damn good sign. And I think there are very good professional coaches out there that will do that. But there will be some that will want the gig, and I think it's then incumbent on the executive to be smart enough in their people skills and listening to their intuition. Is this the person that I can really confide in? And I think that's very important.
And just picking up one of your earlier points, you've mentioned a few times now about establishing the end goals that you're trying to achieve. Is that a key feature in coaching? Should you always be looking to set the end state before embarking on the program?
Yes. So that conversation will highlight what is it that you're looking to achieve with working with a coach that you can't achieve been your perception on your own. And so a number of topics will emerge from that. And the questionnaire, the survey, will go to the nub of the values of a lot of balance questions, and looking again at the holistic individual from a personal perspective as well as from a business perspective. This is where we'll frame the agenda out of, and we'll focus each conversation on an element of that agenda. And when we get to the end of that session, we will look at the homework that's necessary for preparing the next one and agree when the next one is. And so this will be a rolling process where we're checkpointing all the time. Are we on track?
Yep.
Are we achieving what we want to achieve, or is this a talk fest?
Right. Well, some good advice there for how to choose a coach. So thank you, Heiner. It's been a really interesting discussion around some of the benefits and outcomes that we can achieve through working with a coach. And you talk about being very lonely at the top, this idea of creating energy, being able to jump out of bed in the morning with a renewed passion. Are these the kind of things that everybody would expect to see working with an effective coach?
Yes, I do, if the coaching program allows itself to go to that level. If we don't work too superficially across some of the pure business topics, my experience has been that the biggest breakthroughs have come when we've worked at a level that we're talking about here. In my book, Life Learnings of a Life Coach, there's a chapter there called Leaping Out of Bed. And when we started this conversation, we talked about leaping out of bed. And I'd like to, go back to the challenge. If you go back the last 30 days of your life, how many days of those 30 would you have leapt out of bed in anticipation of having a great day and making a difference? Would it be 20 days? Would it be 10? Is it maybe 3? Is it maybe no days at all? And I think that is a fundamental when we talk about forks in the road. It's a fundamental when we talk about what is it that you want to achieve in your life that you can look back on and say, I was the best me that I could be. That we look back on our life's work as being the best that I've been able to be, and that I look back in satisfaction and not in regret.
And is there any point where it's too late to do that, or can anybody at any stage in their life apply that philosophy?
I don't think it's ever too late to do that. Forks in the road will happen to us at any point in our life. The ability to recognise that we're at a fork in the road and to respond to that. You see, I could have continued working as an executive in a space that I was doing okay in, but I wasn't doing what I was born to do. Today I'm doing what I was born to do, and I would encourage everybody that they get to the point that they can look back and say, I'm doing, or I did, what I was born to do. So if we come to that realisation at age 60, McDonald's, Ray Kroc started that business at age 57. I don't think that age is a factor in here.
Okay. Well, there you go. So if you're not leaping out of bed every morning with a renewed vigour, probably time to pick up the phone and call a coach. So, Heiner, on that note, I'd like to thank you for being here. It's been a great discussion and really good information.
It's been my pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Stephen.
And thank you for watching the Executive Business Network, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you.